Ready for the race.
The big race was tomorrow. He would be competing with people from other schools. It was his first big race. He was worried, but he was also excited. He was the fastest boy in his school, and he had been training for months. He had been running for a long time. He joined track when he was in middle school. He loved running. He ran everywhere. He ran to the market to pick up groceries. He ran to school in the mornings. He ran back home after school. He ran to his friend's house. His friends lived far away. He did not mind running. Running was his passion. It was the night before the race. He had a good night's sleep. In the morning, he woke up ready. The race was in a couple of hours. He got ready. He was not nervous anymore. He was prepared to race.
Family reunion.
He got off the airplane. He stepped on the ground. It was a long flight. There was a baby crying on the flight. He could not sleep. He exited the airport. He called a taxi. It drove him home. He paid the taxi driver and thanked him. He looked at his house. He was glad to be home. The lights were on inside. He saw shadows through the window. His family reunion had started. He knocked on the door. His father opened the door. "Welcome back home, Greg," he said, smiling. He went inside. He greeted everybody. He said hello to Cousin Alex. He hugged and kissed his grandmother. He shook the hand of his brother-in-law. He hugged his sisters and brothers. He was overjoyed to see his mother. His mom gave him a big kiss. It was a good family reunion. He did not want to go back to California.
Package in the mail.
The mailman knocked on the door. No one answered the door. He had a package to deliver. He needed the person's signature. It was a heavy package. He rang the doorbell. Still, no one answered. He looked through the window. There was someone inside. A girl was napping on the couch. He knocked on the window. The girl was sound asleep. He used his voice. He called her name. She woke up. She saw the man through the window. She opened the door. She asked who he was and what he wanted. "I'm the mailman, can't you tell?" he said and pointed to his uniform. She was half asleep. "I have a package for you," the mailman said. She asked how he knew her name. He said her name was on the package. She signed for it. She took the package inside. It was heavy.
A familiar face.
They were on a train. He sat across from her. He looked at her. She looked familiar. She was writing on her iPad. She looked concentrated. The train sped along its tracks. It made large sounds. There were many passengers on board. He looked to his right. He saw a man with long hair. He saw a woman holding a dog. He saw a kid with food on his face. He looked to his left. He saw an old man with a cane. He saw a young lady crossing her legs. He saw a fat man eating peanuts. No one looked familiar except her. She sat in front of him. He thought for a minute. He could not remember. The train had come to a stop. It had reached its destination. Passengers were exiting the train. He lost sight of her. He looked around to see where she went. She was nowhere in sight.
Suzan's garden.
Suzan had a garden. She planted fruits and vegetables. The garden was in her backyard. Her backyard was wide and long. She had plenty of space. Suzan's garden took up most of the space. Her garden grew several kinds of fruits. It grew watermelons, grapes, strawberries, avocados, oranges, and papaya. Some fruits grew from the ground. Others grew on trees. Suzan's garden also grew several kinds of vegetables. It grew tomatoes, potatoes, squash, carrots, and eggplants. Suzan was proud of her garden. She worked hard to maintain it. Every day, she watered her garden. Her fruits and vegetables tasted great. It was because of her care and love. Everybody in her neighborhood ate from her garden. Suzan sold the fruits and vegetables at low prices. She made good profit. Suzan did not sell it all. She always kept enough for herself. She knew that fruits and vegetables were good for her health.
Library visit.
She went to the library. It was close to home. The library was quite small, but it was a nice library. She needed to check out a book. It was a book for her school. She did not want to buy it. It is free to check out books at the library. The library is open to the public. Libraries provide access to knowledge. She walked inside the library. It was nice and quiet. The library was also cool. She went to the front desk. She asked for her book. A librarian helped her find it. She was thankful for the help. The librarian was happy to help. She talked to the librarian. They spoke about libraries and librarians. It was an interesting conversation. She learned a lot of things. She left the library and went back home. The librarian had inspired her. She wanted to be a librarian one day.
Flight to Boston.
He drove to the airport. He waited for his flight. He waited for an hour. His flight was ready. He boarded the airplane. The airplane was huge. It was going to Boston. He had family in Boston. He lived in Los Angeles. He was a teacher. He taught at a community college. He loved his job. His family was proud of him. He was going to see them. It was a family reunion. He looked forward to seeing everybody. 5 years had passed since he was in Boston. He brought sweaters and jackets because Boston was cold at this time of year. The airplane took off. His ears popped. He put on his headphones. The flight lasted 6 hours. He arrived safely in Boston.
Alex's friends.
Everybody has friends. Some people have many friends. Others have only a few. Alex had many friends. He liked making friends. Every day he made new friends. Alex was good at making friends. He was good at small talk. He was not at all shy. Alex made friends everywhere he went. He made friends at the store. Shopping for food? He asked a stranger. I sure am, the stranger said. Alex continued talking to the person. He had made a new friend. He made friends at the bank. Making a deposit? He asked another stranger. Yes, sir, the stranger replied. A conversation followed. Making friends was easy for Alex. He was a friendly guy. Everybody who knew Alex liked him. Everybody that Alex knew was his friend. Alex did not know any strangers. If he met one, they quickly became friends. Alex wanted to have all the friends in the world.
Stomachache.
He had a stomach ache. He did not know why. Was it something he ate? He wondered. He remembered what he ate that day. He ate eggs in the morning. He also had toast and milk. Later, he had a snack. The snack was a cookie. It was a chocolate chip cookie. Then he ate lunch. For lunch, he ate a sandwich. It was a turkey sandwich with cheese. He drank soda. Later, he had another snack. The snack was a popsicle. Then he ate dinner. For dinner, he had steak. On the side, he had vegetables and mashed potatoes. He drank soda again. That was all he ate for the day. He wondered what had caused his stomach ache. He did not drink soda often. He blamed soda. The next day came. He did not have a stomach ache anymore. He never drank soda again.
Walking after midnight.
She crossed the street. The street was empty. There were no people. There were no cars. It was after midnight. She walked down the street. She was not afraid. It was dangerous at night. It was especially dangerous for a girl. She did not care. She was a fighter. She knew how to defend herself. She carried pepper spray. She was ready for anything. The streets were deserted. She walked around for an hour. She took in the night air. She gazed at the stars. She looked at the closed stores. She saw the dirty curbs. She walked back home. She fell on her bed. It had been another night. She went to sleep like a baby.
Best friends.
They were the best of friends. People thought they were sisters. They did everything together. They shared everything with each other. They met in middle school. They were in the same college now. Sometimes they argued, but soon they made up. College can be tough. They took classes together. They studied together. They always helped each other. They were good students. They were from Colorado. They went home together. They lived in the same town. They knew the same people. Their family knew each other. They went back to college together. They shared one room. They acted like sisters. It's nice having a best friend. Everybody should have a best friend.
A nice house.
He lived in a big house. It was white. The rooftop was blue. It had a white fence. There were plants in the front. There was a tall tree in the backyard. The house had a fireplace. He lit it on cold nights. He lived with his wife. They were grateful for what they had. They had to work hard. Hard work pays off. The house had 3 floors. It also had a basement. There were 5 bedrooms. They planned to have a family. The house was big enough for a family. The house had brown carpet. It also had wooden floors. There were a lot of windows. The house had nice views. The house had a reading room. They had a big library. The house had a music room too. There was a piano inside. There was also an art room. It was a perfect house.
Circus.
The circus was in town. It was a big attraction. Everybody in town went. The circus was a lot of fun. They had clowns. The clowns juggled bowling pins and danced around. The kids liked the clowns. The circus also had magicians. The magicians performed magic tricks. The teenagers liked seeing the magician perform. The circus had animals. The animals had handlers. The handlers made the animals do tricks. A tiger went through a hula hoop. A monkey rode a tricycle. An elephant stood on 2 legs. Everybody liked the animal show. There were also rides. The circus stayed in town for 3 days. It went from town to town. It was fun to go to the circus.
A toothache.
Her tooth was aching. She could not eat. It hurt every time she chewed. She could not even swallow. She knew what she had to do. She was scared. She had not gone to the dentist in years. It was time to make an appointment. She called their number. She set an appointment. It was for Friday at 5 o'clock. She was not looking forward to it. She hated going to the dentist. She was afraid of the pain, but she had no choice. She was already in pain. The tooth had to come out. The dentist told her the same. She sat back in the chair. The dentist gave her a painkiller. She still felt some pain. It was soon over. The tooth was removed. It no longer hurt to chew. It was a relief. She could now eat and chew without pain.
Lost in the woods.
They camped out in the woods last night. They were alone in the woods. When they woke up in the morning, they did not know where they were at. They were lost. There was no one else around. It was just the two of them. They panicked at first. They calmed themselves down. "Everything will be okay," they said to each other. They left their cell phones at home. They lit a smoke signal. No one saw it. They decided to walk back. They retraced their footsteps. It took a long time. They had walked a long distance. They got thirsty. They stopped at a stream. They drank from the stream. They continued walking. There were no signs of life. It was getting dark. They had to find people soon. Eventually, they met somebody. He was another camper. He helped them find their way to safety. It was a scary camping trip.
Late night caller.
The house phone was ringing. She went downstairs. It was dark. She watched her steps and slowly went down the stairs. Who is calling? She wondered. She got downstairs. The phone was in the kitchen. She reached for the light switch. She turned on the lights. She squinted her eyes. The light was bright. She was blinded by the lights. The phone was still ringing. She walked to the kitchen barefoot. She stepped on a toy. She jumped in pain. She looked at the floor. She had stepped on a Lego toy. She had a son. He never picked up his toys. She reached the kitchen. The phone was still ringing. She picked up the phone. She looked at the caller ID. It was an unknown number. She answered the phone. "Hello?" There was no reply. The phone clicked. It was a wrong number.
Jane from LA.
Her name was Jane. She lived in Los Angeles. She was born there. She loved Los Angeles. She went to work in downtown Los Angeles. There are many people in Los Angeles. She drove to work every day. She looked out her window. There were people walking down the street. Some were white, some were black, and others were brown. This did not matter. They were all natives of Los Angeles. She went out with friends. They went to restaurants and shows. Los Angeles had many restaurants. Her favorite were Indian restaurants. Los Angeles has many performers. She saw famous artists and bands. It was fun going out in Los Angeles. She often came back home late. She was always safe. She never spoke to strangers. She avoided walking on streets that were not safe. Jane did want to live in Los Angeles. It was her home.
Frisbee.
It was a nice sunny day. He was at his aunt's house. His cousins were there too. He saw a Frisbee on the floor. He picked it up. He loved playing Frisbee. It was a fun and simple game to play. He had played it all the time. He needed someone else to play with. He asked his cousins, "Do you guys want to play Frisbee with me?" They said yes right away. They asked their parents for permission. They were given 2 hours to play. They went to the park to play. He told his cousins to spread out. His cousins had never played Frisbee before. They were excited to play. He had the Frisbee in his hand. "Catch!" he yelled at one of his cousins. He tossed the Frisbee at him. The Frisbee flew in the air. It looked like a flying saucer. His cousin caught it. He tossed it back. They played Frisbee for 2 hours. It was fun.
Haircut at the salon.
His hair was long. It was getting too long. It bothered him sometimes. The hair would get in his mouth. It would get on his food. It sometimes made him itchy. He thought about cutting it. He asked his friends. His friends told him not to. He asked them why. His friends said he looked fine. He did not care what his friends said. He decided to get a haircut. It was the middle of the day. He was not doing anything. He went to the salon. He walked in and sat down. He waited for the hairstylist. She was with another customer. She finished shortly. She greeted him. She cut his hair. It took 20 minutes. He looked in the mirror. He looked good. He was glad he got a haircut. He paid and thanked the hairstylist. He went on his way.
Sixteenth birthday.
It was her birthday. She was turning 16. She was born on the 5th of August. She was having a birthday party. Everybody was coming. She invited her friends. She had a lot of friends. She also had a lot of aunts and uncles. This made her happy because it meant more presents for her. She was getting ready for her party. She dressed up in her best outfit. Her mom prepared the food. Her dad went to pick up the cake. Her brothers set the tables and chairs. The party was happening in the backyard. The party was in 4 hours. They were almost ready. Dad brought back chocolate cake. Mom cooked all the food. Her brother got the backyard ready. The birthday party was a success.
Death of a grandmother.
He was sad. His grandma had died. He loved his grandmother. She raised him. She took care of him. She had seen him grow into a man. She was the sweetest woman. She was kind to all. Everybody loved her. She departed at the age of 76. She had lived a long life. He was happy for her, but he was also sad. His grandma was no longer here. He could not believe it. He remembered the last words he said to her, "I love you, Grandma. I'll come to see you soon." He hugged and kissed her goodbye. She died a few days later. He cried. Her funeral was held shortly. All her family was there. Friends had also gathered. He helped carry the coffin. It was a hard thing to do. He would never forget his grandmother.
A family visit to the zoo.
It was a family trip. They drove to the zoo. The zoo was far away. The children were excited. They had never seen wild animals before. They had only seen cats and dogs. They wanted to see bears and gorillas. The older sibling was not excited. He had been to the zoo before. He had been there too many times. It was now his 10th time. He did not want to go there any more. Mom and Dad liked the zoo. It was a good learning experience. Grandpa was also going. He was sound asleep. They arrived at the zoo. They saw all the animals. They heard a bear roar. They touched the starfishes. They saw the gorillas. It was a long day. The family got tired. They sat and ate food. They went back to their car. They drove back home.
A broken cell phone.
She dropped her phone. She picked it up. She looked at the screen. She gasped. The screen was cracked. She was upset. Her phone was important. She texted on her phone regularly. She frequently made phone calls. She had internet access on her phone. It was her world. The phone was not cheap, but she had to buy a new one. She did not have enough money. She went to the store and talked to the salesperson. She told him that she had dropped her phone. He asked to look at the phone. She handed it to him. "Can you fix it?" she asked. He said yes, he can. She paid to repair it. It cost less than a new phone. Her cell phone was repaired. She was very happy. She bought a protective case for it.